Hi, I'm Jake. I'm playing the piano quite badly. I also secretly have a hangover, which is partially the reason why I was late for work. In any case, you were watching an interview with me and hopefully someone else, but probably not, about communication. Communication! Yeah! I'm not shy, but I am I'm more considered and serious than I seem to be. So, well-ish. But yeah, so I prefer to be funny so that I can just deal with the machinery of being on stage quickly without having to get to without intellectualizing it, basically. I like kind of having fun with people, and whatever comes out of that, if that's funny, that's great. But I'm more interested in developing music as a skill, and also as a passion, you know. So it's really helpful to have a likable persona, because people can engage with you and the music, and also music they might not normally engage with.
I ain't telling the truth no more. I ain't telling the truth.
We're the sort of band that gets up and says all the stuff that the other bands aren't saying. So it's kind of a candid relationship. It would be a fraudulent and purely egocentric exercise if you weren't trying to communicate things that other people weren't necessarily saying in that context. Like, if you are saying stuff that's important to you at least, then it feels like it has a legitimate reason to exist. Particularly with me, I'm always thinking of the audience and myself, but usually what I want out of it is probably what the audience, my audience is going to want out of it too. The idea is that, especially because this was the original idea of the band anyway, was to be sort of egalitarian and accessible. You know, I'm very conscious of the interaction between us and the audience, and because our job is basically to motivate a crowd to kind of party or get into things. There's a few ways you can do it. One, you can come out and if you've got the vibe, you can perform it to yourself. The other one is you can take it to the audience and make it very much that thing that happens. Or you can sit in the world of the band sound-wise and just feed off the sound of the band, you know, and that can be really motivating too. Or you can do all three at once if you're having a good show. And often there isn't as much banter as you'd think that there'd be in a Blue Juice show. It's just depending on what happens, you know. It's like really pretty much performance seems to be mostly about using the tools at hand to their most effective and obvious use. There's a fine line between sort of humanising yourself, which is sort of what we're trying to do with the band a bit, and also removing any authority you have. And mostly stage performance is about levels of authority, you know, levels of kind of ownership over the crowd, and how much focus you can pull at any one time and what you can do with it. The less insecure you are about your own work, the less you think about the audience, and then probably the more it sort of generally connects anyway, because it's a bit less conscious. There's something I quite like about conscious forms of pop music, like very almost self-conscious, because I think it's sort of got a nice surface of generic sort of familiarity that allows you to uptake it really quickly as a listener, and then as I said, underneath that you can sneak all these different kind of subtextual things, like sort of like busy humming them to yourself, and then all of a sudden you realise you're actually listening to something that's probably quite a dark lyric, or you know, you can contrast things nicely that way. So most of the lyrics have very little to do with the feel of the song, but they just sort of match in our heads after a while because we've practiced them so many times, and suddenly it starts to make sense. I'm not going to lie, I did want to make more accessible music because the first album had been so convoluted and I was sick of the way we were writing, but it was less to do with how we were coming across to the public, and much more to do with the fact that the internal politics of the band was so snarled. It was just difficult to unpick where all the, you know, where the songwriting elements came from, and I just thought, like, there's a way to do this that will be accessible for people, will get us on the radio a lot, and also will allow us to tour and be the band that I guess that we are at heart, which is essentially a pop band.